oxygen, and by combining these forces or joining these forces, they give us the sweetest water molecule and becomes stable. So chemical bond is that force of attraction which holds atom together to form different substances. And this is the different substance. As you can see here, hydrogen is a gas, oxygen is a gas, but when they do combine, they lose their properties, their original properties. They are no more gases, they become a liquid, and which is the water here. So they lose their own properties by sharing their valence electrons, by combining their valence electrons, and the attractive forces between these electrons are between these electrons of the valence electrons of the oxygen atoms. These are attracted by the nuclei or the positive charge of the hydrogen, and the hydrogen electrons, valence electron, is attracted by the positive charge of the oxygen nuclei, and these attractive forces hold this molecule together, and it becomes very much stable, and we can see a large amount of water on the planet Earth. It's because of this very chemical bonding. So these chemical bonds are of two types: ionic bonds, and the second one is the covalent bond. Now we will discuss about the ionic bond first, how is it formed, and we will discuss some of its example. So ionic bond is the force of attraction between oppositely charged ions. Ionic bond is the force of attraction between ionic bond is attraction between oppositely charged ions. So this bond, ionic bond, formed between oppositely charged ions. You will notice ionic bonds form between metals and non-metals. Metals are on the left side and non-metals are on the right side of the periodic table. So when these elements combine together, they form ions, cations and anions, and when these ions attract each other, there is a bond between the two ions of cations and the anions. Cations plus anions, and this very bond which formed between the different ions, the cations, the positive ions and the negative ions, it gives us the ionic bond. For example, sodium loses one electron and gets electronic configuration of next noble gas neon, as we have discussed it earlier, that when sodium loses one electron, sodium, you have seen this. Let me erase this a little bit. For example, sodium has 23 atomic mass and 17 electrons. So you know that loses one electrons and gets, when it loses one electron, its electronic configuration of sodium, if you have noticed this, its first shell has 2 electrons, its second shell has 8 electrons, and its third shell has 7 electrons, and it is in the group 7. So it needs one more electron to get the electronic configuration of the neon, and then the sodium atoms become the sodium ion. It becomes positively charged, right? Chlorine atom gains one electron. Chlorine atoms 2 electrons, 8 electrons, and in the third shell chlorine atom has chlorine atom's electronic configuration of organ. So chlorine has uh, 35 atomic mass, and sorry, it has 11 electrons. Its atomic number, sodium atomic number is 11, and 17 is the atomic number of chlorine. So 2 electrons in the first shell, 8 electrons in the second shell, and 7 electrons in the third shell. And when chlorine gets 1 electron from the sodium atom, which is in this very shell, it gets the electronic configuration of neon. Sodium gets the electronic configuration of neon, and chlorine gets the electronic configuration of argon. Both become stable and becomes ions. In this way, these two ions combine together and form the ionic bond. Sodium atoms form cations. These are the cations, which are the positive ions, and these are the anions, which are the negative ions. Okay, after this we will discuss the covalent bond. The covalent bond is the covalent bond formed between the non-metals, which is by covalent bond attraction due to the share of electrons between two atoms. For example, hydrogen is a non-metal. It has only one electron in its outermost shell. It has one proton in its nucleus. When it combines with another hydrogen atom, they combine their valence shell electrons. This way they both get stability, and this bond, which is formed by the mutual sharing between the two non-metal atoms, is called the covalent bond. So ionic bond forms between the metals and the non-metals, and covalent bonds form due to mutual sharing of electrons between two non-metals, is in case of hydrogen molecule. Hydrogen molecule has the covalent bond, and sodium chloride has the ionic bond. Sodiums are cations, which are positive ions, by losing one electron in its outermost shell, and chlorine is a gas, poisonous gas. It has 7 electrons in its outermost shell, and to get stability it needs one more electron so that it can get the electronic configuration of argon, which is a noble gas and very much stable, colorful gas. So this very configuration, or this very bond between the positive sodium ions and the negative chlorine ions, is called ionic bond, and it's formed between the atoms, metals and non-metals. Hope this makes sense. Take care. Allah Hafiz.